I was doing these large installations and also very not of a something very permanent material, very like tiles or wood or found materials and decayed or a cut trunks or things like that. So it's also very perishable material. So it was not about making an object for a museum or a gallery that collectors items and things like that. So it was very very physical stuff. That's then also I also made efforts to show it in Bangalore also. Like some of the works were shown in Bombay also at the time. And then I realized that this objects, what I was doing, something so grounded with the content and also with the material, and this was losing relevance once I took it out of the city or out of the context. Maybe when you write it in a book or have pictures and a lot of writing, then maybe it makes sense. But when we were see at this object, and this is happening to a lot of artists, and a lot of artists capitalize that also, that are South Asian artists coming and showing. I mean, it's like even not only women artists, even men artists. So the works are a little exotic, or the material that makes them really sit with the tradition, the roots and things like that. But somehow I was very uncomfortable with that. So that's why then I realized once I was there and once making this object, I realized that I'm a storyteller basically. These are just an excuse, like to bring people. And for example, one work I made a very large installation of a tree trunk which is like 15 feet, and I had to take it to a painter in a town here in Domasandra, the circle. There was not much so when I took that in the tractor, it was a procession almost, like, because it was a huge, and people relate to functional objects like a chair, furniture, or when you see something as a wood and or religious stuff. But this is something not religious, not functional, not utilitarian. What is this? So that attracted a lot of people, for example. So then when they came there, and then I realized that then they really need me to tell the story, because something that they're not familiar with. It's not a chair or a furniture, it's not a cot, or it's not a idol also, like a religious idol. So I call it as live art, and this is the term I felt it was very convenient for me to use, live art, rather than calling it as a performance art. So, and also I called it as projects. That MG Road Boulevard, it was a Bangalore Hubba context, and I made something called ATP, Anytime Plans. So I set up a physical kiosk, like an ATM, because that was a trend that ATM machines were coming in Bangalore and things like that. So I made like an ATM counter where I was inside this counter, and when people can come and really not pay, but put their visiting card or a business card or address proof, and they would get a sapling, literally to plant. You can see it is more like an environmentalist or any like an actionist or like an NGO kind of approach, but I saw it as a fun, like as a performative, and you're able to talk to people. Though I gave some 200 300 saplings, but I might have spoken to 2,000 people in that festival. So I thought that is what actually my strength is about. So before that, I did another installation space in our own farmland, where it was a very site specific work. Also at that time my wife had passed away at that time. So on the second anniversary of her death, I made up installation and also performance on her grave also. So that was also something that my works were like that at the time. So that's when I was working, and like not much into the city, but mostly doing the site specific works in my own settings, which is perishable, and which could just let it go there and things like that. But only when I felt that works are finished, I would invite people to see and things like that. So that's the kind of an so-called calling it as finished work. And then when I was working with young people, I mostly spoke about performance art and what they can do with this kind of limitations of financially or material wise or time wise, everything. So I said, you have body, you have ideas, and please see the city as a space, or as a theater or space, or whatever you call, and this concept of interventions. Most of the art scene in Bangalore happened because of the art community. This artist-led initiatives, artist-run spaces, were actually the ones which actually made a community in Bangalore. That's the strength of I don't see anything like that in India in any sense, even in a remote places. Even if it's a small town, small city, this is not happening as a collectives. So that's what I realized, that the community is making art. So that's why then we realized that what a gallery is offering to artists, and this hierarchy of selection and big names and things like that, that I would have a space that very democratic, unselected, that no curator, but just make a festival. and then that's when the term I saw myself as an handyman, with the red dress all the time. And I said, and that was a company there which was handyman. We were like service providers, things like that. So I took their own costume. They didn't afford me a costume. I bought it from a flea market. I got one stained. So I used to wear this all through the year, things like that. So that was very performative also in the sense. But again, the definition is not that I'm performing and you have to watch me and all. So I'm what I call as live art. So that is when I consciously felt about when you're curating a shows in a galleries like Venkatappa Gallery, where a lot of common people come and things like that. I realized that how we have to really adjust to the subjects also. Like we talked about common subjects like water, dolls, and food. For example, that food one show is very important. So when we did that, I personally, though it was a collective work from VG Forum, I personally took a lot of interest in it. When you're exhibiting in space where there are 200, 300 tourists come every day, so what are the subjects they can relate to? Like something what you might have read in Western context with the pop art movement or pop music movement, something like that. But it's not that we are compromised, just because there's another kind of a class of people coming, but just that to engage and with that kind of a thing, that where there's a dialogue. So that led me to understand about this, and also that's the time that I wanted to do a kind of a tribute project to my mom about documenting her recipes and what she ate as a kid and what she was cooking and what she learned as cooking. So that's made me to think about Sarjapura Curries. And then we proposed a project that I want to really do at the very village where my mom was coming from, and village here next to the Prestige thing, Veekalali. And that's when I grounded this project in that community center to encourage women basically to re-look into the kitchen gardens and also introduce the native seeds, and also to popularize this very practice of foraging, where a woman in a good peak season would go and collect some very important I don't say herbal, but it's a very important greens around, edible greens, and they come with in their pallu and cook almost weekly or things like so. That it's a kind of a well-being thing that most of the mothers did this for their families. Initially I started as a small setup with like nursery kind of a setup in that village, and we only made saplings and seeds to distribute every now and then, and to also document the things. So most of my Instagram posts at the time was talking about the very forgotten greens and herbs and things like that. I would name them, label them and all that. So then COVID happened. So after COVID happened, I worked as a COVID warrior around with a lot of APU friends and all at the time, and that's when I had a kind of a connection with a lot of gated communities around. So this was there, and then I saw some of the people had lost jobs and things like that. So the gardener who was working for me in that project, actually his wife also lost her job at the time. So I thought I want to earn for this guy and kind of engage him for that period. So that's why what we did is we took a land here from my friend, my cousin, for free for that time, because he said, okay, use it. So then I used to bring this gardener, and we used to work and continue this project still, and wanted to make a sustainable project. Because initially we got a small grant from BSF, but later we wanted to do it like a sustainable model. We wanted to continue this project further. So that's when I was bringing this guy from a scooter from his village to this project, we thought we'll grow something. What is it? This forgotten weeds and greens, and we'll sell and we'll pay these salaries and things. So that's how it started. So whatever you see is a model where a ideal family in the villages, even now in interiors, but earlier even here, was sustainable. They would grow for their family, and they would have hen, cow, whatever it is, to run a family. The same model, now we have scaled it up. Like imagine if one family is doing that, we are doing for some 20 families, for example. So that's the model. So you have what you're growing is, we have not kind of mainstreamed anything as such. We have curry patta, say, dhania, say, like whatever you need for a weekly sustainable way of living, in a sense, and with not much inputs from outside. We have our own cattle to get the cow dung, and we have our own seeds we are making in the house. So it's very limited. We don't have fancy vegetables and things. We might not grow capsicums and all that, but we have something what people traditionally were eating here. This is a very spectacular patch, because now it's a good season now for all the gods. So you can see more varieties of vegetables. So this is a very native snake gourd, and then you have bottle gourd. So season wise it keeps changing, and then these are the beds. We have carrot and red amaranthus and sponge gourd, and these trees are again the forgotten vegetable, agatikire, aksesopu. All these medieval saints, no, they all had some kind of a small business, that they had some kind of a people engagement. You might be writing very nice things, but if you don't go to the market to or people, where do you find common people? Market and Santes, no? Like everyone, like somebody says, like Kallu Sakare Kalliro with this Dasa, that he says that he has a sugar candy, please buy. And he's singing songs in market. Or you say even the Kabir or somebody who was weaving or doing something, they have to go to the market to sell, no? Or if somebody is gardener who is growing something, he also has to go to a garden to, a market to sell something. So that is the people. And also, our own Kaivar Naranappa, he was a bangle seller. This guy, he was a saint, and he went to village, gave bangles to the woman. It's very, very personal actually to put bangle to a woman, things like that, And he told stories, he told tattva-padas, all these things. And his wife, there's a myth that his wife used to beat him up because he was not taking money from them. It was really not to make a business, but it's the people contact. So I feel that this whole concept of selling this humble, I'm not making millions of selling sopu and all that, but this is keeping especially women and the community around, the family around, engaged for something that there's a holistic approach to it.